Hi, Steve Sterner here at Rage Fitness with Kristen, and we're going to demonstrate the L hold for you, progressions on the parallettes. Come on, Kristen, have you put your hands on the bar. And we're going to start with just a simple tuck hold. So Kristen's going to lift her feet up off the floor and just hold them up off the floor in a tuck, slight tuck like that. This is going to be our first step, and you'll see that her shoulders are slightly in front of her hands and her hips are a little bit behind. Right now, though, I'd like to see her lift her knees up a little bit higher and try to get them up closer to her chest. Very good, and that gets a little bit harder. And if that's too hard, you can rock back to where you were to start with and then try to lift them up again. Go ahead and rest really quick. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to start with the exact same position, put our hands on the bars in a tuck, and then try to lift the knees up and press our hips forward so that they're even with your hands. So hands on the bar, start in the same position, in a slight tuck. And then she's going to lift her knees up closer to her ribs and try to press her hips so her hips are even with her hands there, and that's really going to work the tricep. If you cannot hold it like Kristen is, you can rock back and just try to rock into it and rock back and hold for as long as you can. And up, very good. And one more time, rock and hold. Very good, and just go ahead and stand up. So the next thing we're going to do is after we've got the tuck hold, we're going to put our hands on the bar, just get into a tuck hold, try to have the hips even with our feet, our hips even with our hands, and then try to straighten our legs into an L. If the hips rock back while we're doing this, that is okay. First thing we want to do is just try to be able to hold the feet up even with the bars. So we'll start in a tuck, rock the hips forward, and then try to straighten the legs. If the hips rock back, that's all right there. And then eventually try to press the hips forward and even with the hands. Very good, and rest. And a good rule of thumb here is to try to be able to hold for about 3 seconds first on the tuck hold, and then try to progress into the next thing once you can hold that. Also, once we get into the L hold, if you're having a hard time holding them up, you can definitely let your feet touch the floor and try to lift them back up and do progressions of, say, about 8 to 10, just lifting the feet off the floor and letting them back down. Kristen, can you show us that? We're just going to start. Hips will probably be behind. You start with your feet on the floor. Just try to lift them up as high as you can and drop them back down. Hips up as high as you can, drop them back down. While we're doing this, we really want to focus on trying to keep the elbows straight. If you end up bending your arms, go ahead and let them drop back down so that we're keeping the arms straight the entire time that we're doing the exercise. And then again, the goal is to hold for about 3 to 5 seconds. Excellent. All right, and then the last thing we want to do, we're going to have Kristen be in an L with her feet on the floor, try to lift her feet up, and then just rock her hips forward even with her hands and hold that for a count of 5. So we'll start with feet on the floor, lift the feet up, and then slowly push the hips forward. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Very good. And try one more. Hips up and forward. Good. And as you can see, these are a little bit difficult. Very good. And those are the progressions for an L sit. Thanks.